Alright guys, welcome back to another one here on the channel. Today we are going to be talking about my car history, car collection. However, it's not a car collection because I only own 2 of them at the moment. I've had 25 cars in total. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I've got 26 now. The Passat is being sold to my dad and something is replacing the Passat. We're not going to be talking about that in this. That's for another video. Today, I basically need this for myself to remind myself how many cars I've had and what I've actually had. So we're going to be talking about the whole timeline from my first car up to now. And then we're going to be talking about the Passat and the Clio because I've got them both, what they both serve. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. If you do, leave a like and subscribe. I understand 25 or 26 cars is genuinely insane, especially being 22. I'm not saying it's cool. I'm not saying it's not a good thing at all. Like, as cool as some people genuinely think it is, it's not. It's a headache. Anyway, I've got a list down here, so I might keep on looking down here, but I'll put photos on screen of each car. As I said, like and subscribe. Let's crack on. Car number 1 was my very first Mazda MX-5. It was a Mark 1 green with tan interior. I bought it off my college for 600 quid. This was in like 2019. Obviously they were going up in value, but like, you can't get one now for 600 quid. It had an apparent head gasket fault. Turns out the car was perfect. Sold it for 2 grand on my very first car. So you can see in my head why that set me up for failure. I made quite a nice profit on my first car. I made a loss on just about every other car. Funny enough, the only cars I've ever made a profit on are the MX-5s. But I don't do it for profit, I do it for enjoyment. At least that's what I tell myself. Car number 2 is arguably what kickstarted the channel, was my Mark II Renault Clio. Black, 3-door, did like the full sport interior, did an exhaust, I did suspension. That car was quite cool. I don't think I'd be seen dead in the car now. I actually think that car's been scrapped. But yeah, it was fun at the time, being like a kid in technically my first car. Car number 3 was another MX-5. So I was starting to get bored of the Clio, wanted a change. Remembered I had my MX-5 like when I was 16, but obviously I couldn't get insured on it. Found an identical one, green tan interior, Jap import, all that kind of stuff. This one was 1 owner as well. Yeah, the second MX-5 was 1 owner. So I went, bought it, brought it home, drove it for 10 days, got bored. Like, I've been set to fail from the very start. Got bored. It sat exactly here on the driveway for about 6 months, and then I sold it for a profit, so I'm not going to moan. But then I had the Clio and the MX-5, and before I sold either of them, I also got a Fabia VRS. So that was my silver Fabia VRS. That was an absolute headache. I know everyone says like the 1.9 are like the best engines ever. In my experience, they're the worst. So I will never be going back. When you're in a VRS or a car like that, putting smoke everywhere, you genuinely think it's the coolest thing ever. Hate to break it to you, it's not. So for a couple of days, I had 3 cars. I then sold the Clio, sold the MX-5. The Fabia then went wrong, and I was like, listen, I need to like stop all this. This is a headache. So I needed to get something reliable. So I ended up going for a 1 litre EcoBoost, which looking back probably wasn't the best move I've ever done. But I've had two of them. I've never had an issue with any of them, but I do know what the issues are, and I know I didn't keep them long enough to see an issue. So I'm not trying to say they're good in any capacity, but to me, they were fine. This one was quite cool. It was my first like newish car. It was a 2019 car. I bought it in 2022. So like that was quite cool. I was still part-time back then, didn't have my businesses. I know I did actually, but they weren't at the scale they are today. I then got bored of that, bought a Clio 172 while I still had the Fiesta. Couldn't get insured on the Clio, so I sold it. Sold like all the spare parts and stuff. That would have been cool to have now instead of this, but never mind. I then I traded the Fiesta in, so a 1 litre EcoBoost, for a E91 335i. So I went from a 1 litre to a 3 litre. Twin turbo, 305 horsepower. It was just shit though. Like, again, it was 1 owner. It was a cool car. It was just a shit example. Like, the seller lied to me, and I didn't really know my rights back then. You might have found me through my 135i videos where I essentially fought with BMW to get every single penny of mine back on a faulty car. I didn't really have that kind of A, confidence, and B, like, knowledge back then. So I sold the car back to the garage who I bought it off in 2 weeks for £2.5 grand loss. So don't take any financial advice from me. After that, I was like, okay, let's just get something I love. So I got my first Clio, well, my only Clio 197, the black one. I'm going to be honest, I did quite a lot of mods on that. Milltech exhaust, K-Tech intake, full sport kit, like the spoiler and the splitter. Couldn't really put it on the channel though, due to, I'll let you imagine why. But yeah, that car went wrong, ended up being on a tow truck, ended up that apparently it's because the car wasn't mapped. So it had the intake and the exhaust, and because the car wasn't mapped, it just died. Because when I took the intake off, it fixed itself. So unsure what happened there, but that car unfortunately left. I didn't actually want it to leave, but it did. During the time I had my 197 though, I had 6 cars. I had 6 cars while owning the 197. So they were my Seat Rosa, which I bought a bit too much of a project, paint wise, so I sold it. I bought another MX-5, this time a Mark II. It was an MOT failure. I fixed it, sold it on for a profit. A Cupra K1, which granted I probably should have kept. They are sick, and I chose the Clio over the Cupra. Oh well, that's hindsight. That just shows you how much I loved the 197. I then got a Clio 182 in black as well, because I thought they'd look good to match. Yeah, it didn't last long, because that car started to leak everywhere. It had gearbox issues, suspension issues, which I wasn't made aware of, and this is the time when my 197 started to go wrong. So again, I lost my mind. I was like, listen, I need to just stop, get back into what I know I can save money with. Got another Mark 8 Fiesta ST line, the 1 litre. Bought it from a garage. The car was shit, like genuinely shit. I paid a lot for that car as well, and the car was shit. So I thought, I'm not letting a garage take advantage of me again. I've had private sellers take advantage. I'm not letting a garage take advantage of me again. So I fought them and I fought them. I was then able to hand the car back. Same day I handed it back, I went and picked up my Mark 8 ST. One of the best cars I've ever had, and I stand by that. They are genuinely incredible cars. That is a hint for what's coming soon. You might hate what's coming soon, so calm down. While I had my Mark 8 ST, I did like, it already had like a stage 1, it had H&R springs, it had an intake on it. I love that car. It was so much fun. I did like carbon bits in the interior. I didn't really do anything like too drastic. But while I had that car, I then bought my Mark 6 Fiesta Anniversary, so with the checkered roof. I slammed it, put wide wheels on it. That's it, actually. The guy actually got in contact with me the other day. I didn't know he followed my Instagram, so I now know where that car is, because like that was one of the cars. I'm like, oh, why did I let go of that car? So it got to the new year 2024, and I wanted something new. Well, new to me. So I sold the ST, sold the other Fiesta, and I bought my Mark 6 Golf R, which arguably set the channel off well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big channel, I'm not anything like that, but it did do me really well content wise. But personally, I hated it. It was not what I was after from a car. It was all-wheel drive, it was automatic. It was not what I was after. So after doing the Cobra exhaust, link in the description if you want 10% off, and like some other stuff, I was like, I want to go back to front wheel drive cars. I want to start going on track like I have with this. I want to enjoy my car, stop chasing the public attention and all that kind of stuff. Because to be honest, I got the Mark 6R to impress people and to look cool, not because I wanted it. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a dream car, but yeah, nah. So I then got a 9N3 Polo GTI. I ordered BC coilovers for it. I ordered a K brace for it. That car was genuinely, I still have the brakes now from an Audi S3. That car was going to be so sick, and I sold it, and I do not know why I sold it. I know why I sold all the cars on this list. I'll never know why I sold that Polo. It was going to be so sick. I spent like £2 in like a week on that car. I was so excited, and I just gave up. I don't know why. Anyway, I then had my Polo June, which was like meant to be like a stopgap car. Ended up saving me quite a bit, which was nice, and it looked kind of cool. He only lives around the corner as well, the guy who bought it, so I do see it quite often. After that, I then bought my mum's Cooper S, which I stripped for parts and I scrapped. That was quite fun to do on the channel. Didn't really do well for views, but it was fun to learn and fun to take apart a car without anything like to go wrong kind of thing. Like, oh, this car doesn't need to drive again, so I can kind of take the piss. After that, I then got my 135i. If you haven't seen the content on that, we went out, me and my mate went out for lunch. He bought one in white. They had this other one in blue. I said, can I see it? They brought it out. I fell in love and I bought the car. Long story short, it went completely wrong. Turbo went in like 3 months and I had to fight them to hand it back. Eventually got a full refund, thank God. But that was a headache. If you haven't seen the content, go check it out. I then got a Renault Laguna. Yep. I then got a Ford Fiesta Mark 6 with no MOT and no battery. Yep. I then got my the car we're in now, the Clio 200. I bought this car with the intention to do exactly what you can see. I bought it as a somewhat standard car, and I've turned it into a somewhat shed, which I enjoy it. The fate of this car is up for debate. I want to see it into summer and see how I feel. But I've got a car coming to replace the car we're about to talk about, which kind of does the same thing. Not really. Like, obviously this is quite extreme, but just make sure you're subscribed. You'll see. I then got my Passat, which, hand on heart, I did a video on it the other day, is the best everyday car you will ever have. And the B6 Passat Estate, they're perfect. They're genuinely perfect. And I'm selling it. I've sold it to my dad. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy my dad's having it because I know it's a good car. That car in specific is such a good car. But it's completely backwards from what I'm saying. And I will go into it in a video coming up. But I'm 22. And as much as that will be the smartest choice I'll ever have if I kept that car, I'm not in the mood to be smart. But I am kind of being smart because I don't necessarily want to keep the new car and this. I want to do one or the other. You will see on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed. That is my 25 car history timeline. Soon to be 26. Yeah, I think I did that all in one take as well, which for a guy with a stutter, I'm happy with that. So you make sure you've left a like for that. Hopefully, I'll see you again. Cheers.